everyone, it's Nina. Thanks for joining me today for a new video. Today we're going to be creating a pop-up surprise on the inside of a card. I know a lot of you are always wondering, what do you do with the inside of a card? So I thought I would share some ideas today using a pop-up element and some stamps by Whimsy Stamps. So the card that I'm making today uses this adorable stamp set from Whimsy called Me Wow. And I'm also going to be pulling in this die from My Favorite Things that's called a pop-up surprise. This is what's going to create the interactive element on the inside of our card. But of course, we also need to decorate the outside. So I'm going to pull out two of the images from the stamp set of these two cats and also the cake image. I'm going to color these after stamping them onto some Hammermill cardstock with Simon Says Stamp Intense Black ink. Then I'm going to color these with Copic markers, and I use some very simple shading to color in the cats. I actually colored them to look like my two twin boy cats that I have named Oscar and Thomas. Now, in my mind, Oscar is the one that is going to be loving the cake that's going to be sitting on top of his belly, and Thomas has a bit of an attitude. He would totally be the cat that would pop the balloon. So I'm going to go ahead and color these guys up. You could color them to look like any cats that you know in your life, whether you have cats or maybe the person you're giving this card to has cats, and you could color them to make it look like theirs or yours. It adds a nice personalization to it. Now I wanted to use a bit of a rainbowish color palette for this card. I'm going to be pulling in some pattern paper from Craft Consortium, and that's what inspired me to use the colors that I use to color in the elements that are going to pair up with these cats. So you can see I used quite a few colors on the party hat. I used some pinks for the balloon and the cherry on the cake. And of course, because cake always is best when you add chocolate to it, I added chocolate frosting for that. Now I wanted this particular cat to have the cake in his paws. So I'm going to use a craft knife to cut a very simple arc around each of his paws. Doesn't have to be perfect, but just enough that you can slip the cake in between his paws and he can hold it. So it looks really cute. So he's going to be laying upside down in a cake coma with this particular slice. So now let's start working on decorating our card. I have this beautiful pattern paper. It's an ink drop collection from the Craft Consortium. I loved the colors in this paper. It's so pretty. I'm going to use this balloon background die from Simon Says Stamp to die cut some balloons from that pattern paper. And they're going to get layered up on top of my card base. The card base is going to have a halo of pink in the middle of it. I'm using Simon Says Stamp Positively Saturated ink in PEONY, and I'm going to use that ink to add just a nice halo of color in the middle. Then I'm going to pull in some stars from a Fading Stars stencil from Simon Says Stamp. I want these stars to be cascading across the right side of the card. The left side of the card is going to be having the balloons layered up on that side. So we're going to have this nice combination of stars and balloons to add a nice party feel to this background. And I just used that same peony ink to add those stars there. It's very tone on tone, so it's not super distracting, but it adds a lot of pop to this card. So I just glued those balloons on top of my card base with some liquid glue, and then I'm just going to trim them down so they're not hanging off the edges. So now we're going to have this really cool layered background that we can pop our cat on top of. So we have the cat popping the balloon, or just about to pop that balloon, on the front of the card. But in the inside, we need to add the other cat. That's where we're going to pull in this pop-up surprise. I'm going to die cut it from some white cardstock and then fold on all of the score lines that are created when you die cut this. So it makes it really simple to put this together. Now I do like to take my scoring tool and just burnish the edges of those folded areas just to make sure that I get a really good crease. I use our Simon Says Stamp Teflon bone folder for that. So we have our piece ready to be added to the inside of our card, but I did want to add some pattern paper there too. So I've trimmed down a piece of that Craft Consortium ink drop pattern paper, just a little bit smaller than my card itself, which is an A2 size, and I'll just layer that right into the center of the card. Then I'm going to add adhesive to the two tabs that are created by that pop-up surprise die. Those two tabs you want to have adhesive on because that's what's going to get adhered to our card. I use Simon Says Stamp Redline tape for this. It's nice and strong, so I know it's going to hold really well from many, many openings and closings. So we'll always have this pop-up element securely attached to the card. Removing the release paper from just one tab at a time, I'm adhering the right side of this pop-up element to the inside of my card. Once I have that adhered down, I'll remove the release paper from the other side, fold this in half so that way the adhesive is showing and it'll attach to the other side of the card, and sandwich that in place so that our pop-up element is created. Now this looks really cool on a vertical card, but I wanted to turn this into a horizontal, and so it's a little on an angle, but I liked how that turned out. And I'm going to accent that by adding one of the greetings from the MeWow stamp set onto this as well. Now I just glued that cat onto my pop-up element with some liquid glue, and he'll be securely attached. That cake coma sentiment is from the MeWow stamp set. I stamped it with black ink, and then I'll bring in a black marker to just draw a arrow pointing to the cat. It's a little bit comical. I thought the cat coma worked perfectly with the cake and that cat holding it. It just is so funny. I'm going to pull in this stamp set here from Simon Says Stamp. It's got a lot of great birthday greetings in it, and I liked the style of the font. It was very playful. From that stamp set, which is called Time to Party, along with the MeWow sentiment from the MeWow stamp set. I embossed those both with white embossing powder, so we have these really nice bright white greetings on the black cardstock. And there are no coordinating dies for any of these sentiments, but I'll just fussy cut them out with my scissors. If you didn't want to fussy cut them, you could totally trim these down into simple rectangles. Once I have the sentiments cut out, it's time to adhere them down. I love thin 3D foam squares. I'm actually using those for the sentiments. I used regular depth of foam tape for the cat, but the thin 3D foam squares are slightly less dimensional, so it adds a little bit of a different dimension to my card. So I have different levels of depth, which looks really cool. I glued a few sequins down onto the card and then embellished the balloon with some stickles. Those pieces added a nice bit of sparkle to this card and really tied all the colors together. I really loved how this turned out. So after I added a little highlight to the balloon, that was it. My card is complete. It is super funny. I love the front, but then when you open it up and see that cat on the inside, it just makes you laugh. I absolutely adore this stamp set. It's the MeWow stamp set from Whimsy Stamps. If you're interested in any of the products that I used today along with that stamp set, all of that information is linked below in the video description for you to check out. I hope you were inspired today. Hope it gives you some ideas on what you can do to the inside of the card. Obviously, putting a fun interactive element inside is really fun, but even adding just a simple image and a sentiment really will take your card up a notch. So I hope you were inspired. I hope you enjoyed as well. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss any of our future videos, and I will be back soon with more to share with you all. Until then, have a fabulous day, and thanks for watching.